I'm Curt Dupriez, this is Chasing Cars, and this is Ari, the Hyundai Tucson long-term the team and I have been kicking around in for the last 6 months with a target of clocking up 10,000 Ks. Of course, there's a lot to cover off, so this is part one of our final wrap, and as is tradition, it'll be followed by a part two very shortly. We'll recap what spec it is, why we've got it, and cover off my personal top 5 hits and misses for what is my third hybrid SUV long-termer in a row. We will decide whether or not we would love Ari to stay around the Chasing Cars garage or be happy to see it go. We often have a lot of long-term loans of interesting cars in the Chasing Cars garage at any given time. It's hugely beneficial because it offers a much more intimate experience than we normally get with a week-long loan of press cars. So why Ari or Ari? Well, Ari's short for Arizona. And Arizona is where you will find the city of Tucson. Get it? Yes, it's a pretty terrible nickname, but if you do find yourself having to say Hyundai Tucson Elite two-wheel drive hybrid with N-line day in, day out, you will be looking for a much shorter nickname.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by
Direct. So what is it? To recap, the Tucson is a latecomer to the hybrid game, arriving mid-2024 in facelift form of the 4th generation. It's an important play because the Hyundai now aligns itself as a more direct rival to Toyota's massive selling RAV4, more closely than any other midsize SUV out there. There are 17 different variants available, but Ari is the mid-spec Elite with a turbo petrol hybrid and front-wheel drive. But if you want all-wheel drive, that will be a $2,500 upcharge. Speaking of upcharges, Ari also fits the N-line pack, which also costs an extra $2,500, so we'll be deciding whether or not that's an extra splurge worth making. Ari listed for $52,600 when we first picked it up 6 months ago, and it's still at same price now. Nice. But you will have to add around $5,000 of on-road to park that one up in your driveway. We did promise a twin test against arch-rival Toyota RAV4, and we did. And you can check out that video elsewhere on our YouTube channel. Some of the findings of that twin test did weigh in to the ultimate 5 hits and 5 misses in our final verdict. But in that intro video, we did cover off 1 hit and 1 miss apiece. So let's kick off by recapping that first hit and first miss. Ari arrived in the Chasing Cars garage nicely run in with about 4,500 kilometers on the odometer. And as I mentioned in our intro video, hit number 1 for me is the refinement that you get from the 1.6 litre turbo petrol hybrid system. It's quiet and polished when it's in electric or internal combustion modes, and it's very, very seamless when it's swapping between the two. And as I've since discovered, it's really impressed everyone on staff who's actually driven it. But miss number 1 for me is the painful rigmarole that you have to go through to turn off the active safety annoyance systems. And the big hopper for me is a speed sign recognition system that reactivates every time you start up the car. It's too simple to figure out that you've now moved onto a faster bit of road, and it's too dim to figure out the time of day or the day of the week, particularly when it comes to school zones. To be fair, a lot of cars fit similar systems that are similarly dim. It's just that the warning function is so bold and annoying that you must turn it off every single time you start the Tucson up. We did cover off how laborious it is to turn that system off in our intro video 6 months ago. But now 6 months later, with over 13,000 kilometers on the odometer, I think I've found another fix. It turns out that Hyundai has installed a secret 1-step move to turn off the speed warning system. And given that I only discovered yesterday, 5 months and 28 days into the custodianship, and it goes back tomorrow, Hyundai did a good job of hiding it. What is that move exactly? Well, I'm not saying. Not here and not now. Why? Because I don't want the active safety Gestapo to go knocking on Hyundai Australia's door to get them to remove the feature. But I will reveal how. Maybe somewhere else in this video, maybe somewhere else in another Hyundai video. If only to force the powers that be that make life difficult for car importers and drivers like me to work for it. Ran over, let's move on. Hit number 2 for me is the N-line pack. And for my money, if I was actually spending my own money, the bundle is well worth the $2,500 splurge. Firstly, N-line's 19-inch wheels fit the guards much nicer than the regular 18s. You'll lose the plastic cladding around the arches, and it's a sportier look front and rear. The bigger wheels and the paddle shifters that you do get with the N-line pack also bring benefits to the handling and performance, and we'll cover both of those off a bit later. Intelligent front lighting and projector LEDs are also part of the bundle for some trim levels, and N-line also adds high beam assist. And there's more N-line on the inside, so let's check that out. Miss number 2 though is the rotary style transmission selector. It looks cool, feels pretty cool, and keeps the console clean and uncluttered, but unless you've got the brake pedal firmly depressed switching between drive and reverse or back again, it can get caught with a box full of neutrals when doing 3-point turns. Hit number 3 for me is pretty much the entire interior, everything from the dash up at the front through to the space in the back. I know, that's really 2 hits, but I'm trying to bundle them into 5 hits, so work with me. It didn't dawn on me how friendly and intuitive this cabin space is until a lot of my Chasing Cars colleagues started to point it out. And a lot of the reason for that is that I really did settle into this Tucson experience really quickly. Not only are the dual curved 12.3-inch screens clear and easy to read, everything's in easy reach. And the horizontal inductive charging pad and huge storage underneath are practical and very handy. And spoiler alert, as I found in the twin test with the Toyota RAV4, this streamlined effect in here makes it much airier and nicer to live with. But there's more in row 2. Continuing on with hit number 3, yes, I know I'm cheating now, is just how much room the Tucson has in the second row. Legroom is enormous and is complemented by a rear bench that's really comfy, particularly for the long haul. Again, the penny dropped on just how well packaged the Tucson is when we got to compare it directly with the big selling RAV4. Boot space is also a RAV4 beating 582 litres. When you do drop this second row, there's heaps of space to load furniture or push bikes or whatever you want. So from the windshield to the rear parcel shelf, it's a real class act. But then there's the tailgate. Miss number 3 is the ghost in Ari's tailgate. Now, I did notice when this Tucson first got into the Chasing Cars garage that it would do a fairly strange thing. The tailgate would open all by itself when I stood near the passenger side taillight. Now, the first time I jammed into my garage gate, I thought I must have inadvertently pressed something on the key fob. But sure enough, the next day I came out, stood by the taillight, and it did it again. It's not good for the paintwork. It was a quick trip to Hyundai HQ for a fix, and they simply turned the automatic function off, and it was really hard and heavy to try and open the tailgate. So I reactivated it, and the ghost still haunts me to this day. So part 1 of our 2-part wrap on our long-term loan has unearthed 2 significant hits and 2 misses that you might call nitpicking. So far so good for Ari, but can it continue form through to part 2 and our final wrap of our long-term assessment, coming very soon, maybe next week. In part 2, we'll find out how it drives, what the fuel consumption is like, and have a look at ownership. We'll arrive at our definitive top 5 hits and misses and decide whether or not we'd like to keep it or ditch it. See you next week.